Let's take a second right now to have a moment of silence for Washington Mystics owner Shelly Johnson, who suggested that the WNBA as a whole should have been on the cover of Time magazine instead of just Caitlin Clark.
But actions speak louder than words. Johnson's latest move regarding fever games has set the basketball world on fire with reactions. The same owner who insisted it's not just Caitlin Clark driving attention to the league is now making business decisions that prove exactly the opposite. The staggering numbers behind her latest move tell the real story, one Johnson might not want you to hear, and there's more. A certain award where Johnson's usual outrage was nowhere to be found. Ready for the receipts? Let's dive in.
However, a lot of people are noticing the fact that we all remember Sheila Johnson, right? The Mystics owner that went on CNN that was none too pleased about Caitlin Clark having received the Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. She made absurd comments.
But actions speak louder than words. Johnson's latest announcement about fever games has sent the basketball world into a frenzy. The same owner who downplayed Caitlin Clark's impact is now making business moves that prove otherwise. And the numbers don't lie. We've got all the receipts, including one major award where Johnson's silence was deafening. Let's break it all down.
Where Caitlin Clark was named Athlete of the Year. Why couldn't they have put the whole WNBA on that cover and said, the WNBA is the league of the year because of all the talent that we have?
Johnson didn't hold back, arguing that instead of recognizing Clark individually, Time should have honored the entire WNBA. Think about that for a second. An individual achievement award meant to celebrate one standout player should have somehow been shared among over 100 athletes? That logic alone raised eyebrows, but Johnson didn't stop there. She took it a step further, suggesting there was a racial element to Clark's recognition. Her exact words, "I feel really bad because I've seen so many players of color who are just as talented and never got the recognition they deserve." With that statement, what could have been a conversation about individual versus collective success became something much more divisive.
It has taken the WNBA almost 28 years to get to the point where we are now. And this year, something clicked with the WNBA, and it's because of the draft of the players that came in. It's just not Caitlin Clark. It's Reese. We have so much talent out there that has been unrecognized. And I don't think we can just pin it on one player.
But Johnson didn't stop there. She took it a step further, implying that race played a role in Clark's recognition. Her exact words, "I feel really bad because I've seen so many players of color who are just as talented and never got the recognition they deserve." With that statement, she shifted the conversation from individual versus collective recognition to something far more divisive. But here's the real question. Was Johnson genuinely concerned about fairness and team unity, or was something else fueling her remarks?
There has been, this phrase has been couched, hasn't it? The Caitlin Clark effect. Why do you think that has been the case?
Well, I want to be very diplomatic about this. It's just the structure of the way media plays out race. I'm going to be very honest. I feel really bad because I've seen so many players of color that are equally as talented, and they never got the recognition that they should have. And I think right now, it is time for that to happen.
And yet, what makes Johnson's stance even more puzzling is how it completely ignores the undeniable impact Clark has had on the league. The numbers don't lie. When the Fever played against the Mystics last season, attendance skyrocketed to nearly 20,000 fans. But when other teams came to town, the Mystics struggled to fill even 5,000 seats. That's not just a small boost. That's a seismic shift in fan engagement, all tied to one player, the very player Johnson tried to diminish.
Caitlin has brought a ton of new opportunity, a ton of new eyeballs, and more money to the sport. So instead of downplaying the magnitude of who she is and what she's brought, enjoy the ride and take advantage of the ride.
And Clark's influence goes far beyond just filling arenas. Her presence in the league ignited a surge in fan interest, with Fever game attendance tripling across the board. Jersey sales they skyrocketed by an astonishing 1,000%, making Clark the undisputed merchandise leader. These aren't just impressive stats, they're game-changing figures that prove how one player can elevate an entire league's profile and financial future.
While the NBA's ratings continue to drop over 30% as they try to figure out who is going to fill the shoes of LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry, the WNBA has a golden goose sitting in their league and has done, it's gotten better, but has done everything to kind of discredit the momentum and eyeballs she's brought to this game.
But perhaps the most revealing part of this entire situation is how Clark herself responded to the criticism. Instead of firing back or getting drawn into controversy, she took the high road. In her Time interview, Clark emphasized mutual respect among players and dismissed any notion of jealousy within the league. No defensiveness, no counterattacks, just quiet confidence in her own journey, letting her game and impact speak for itself.
Caitlin is someone who has, if you look at it, done everything you're supposed to do and has been criticized along every step of the way. Again, she's damned if she does, and she's damned if she doesn't.
The contrast between Clark's poise and Johnson's criticism speaks volumes. One tried to diminish an individual achievement, framing it as unfair. The other rose above it, refusing to be pulled into division. So, was Johnson's outrage really about fairness and team unity? Or was it the first sign of something bigger? A pattern that would soon become impossible to ignore?
I mean, honestly, we know how this owner feels about Caitlin Clark. Let us not forget this.
That pattern became impossible to deny when Time announced Aja Wilson as one of its Women of the Year. Suddenly, Johnson's passionate stance on team over individual accolades vanished. Where was the outcry about recognizing the entire WNBA this time? Where was the concern about team unity? When Clark was honored, Johnson made it a league-wide issue. But when Wilson received the same kind of recognition, silence.
Time magazine backed themselves into a confusing corner with their latest blunder. This is a Whiskey Riff right here. When they crowned their Athlete of the Year last year, they did the right thing by giving the title to Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark. Surprisingly, there was some backlash to the decision, which is absurd, with many in the WNBA saying the award should have been given to the entire league instead of just Clark.
Not a single comment. No CNN interview. No passionate plea for Time to honor the entire WNBA instead of just one player. The deafening silence from Johnson spoke louder than any statement she had made before. Remember all that concern about creating division among players when individual honors were given? Apparently, those concerns had an expiration date. Or maybe they were never genuine to begin with.
The Mystics owner went on CNN and was like, I think it would have been nice if they'd have put the entire league on the front cover of Time magazine as Athlete of the Year. Well, there wasn't but one athlete that was moving all the numbers. All right, that was influencing all the money. Gate revenue, attendance, ratings, all the stuff we've talked about, right? There's only one. Right, wrong, or indifferent, just one. Plays in Indiana, wears 22, right?
And the inconsistency didn't go unnoticed. WNBA player Lexi Brown called out the double. Standard posting. Can we please stop taking steps backwards? Her frustration echoed what many players and fans were thinking. If Johnson's concern was truly about fairness and team recognition, why did it only apply when Clark was in the spotlight? Unlike Johnson's claims that individual honors could create resentment, Wilson's award was widely celebrated throughout the league. Players rallied around her, proving that recognition doesn't divide teams. It elevates them. The stark contrast made one thing clear. Johnson's outrage wasn't about principles. It was about who was receiving the recognition.
People, keep in mind, this is a business. When Nike signs a athlete, okay, they want to get an ROI, return on their investment. How do they do that? Because that athlete resonates. You understand that Caitlin Clark, her jerseys, her apparel, if she has an apparel deal, her shoes will sell.
Let's be real. If Johnson truly believed that individual awards undermined team success, her reaction to both honors would have been the same. But the fact that she only took issue when Clark was celebrated and stayed. Silent when Wilson was reveals something deeper. This isn't just about hypocrisy, it's about targeting. When two superstar players receive nearly identical recognition just months apart, yet only one is met with criticism, the question isn't about principles anymore. It's about agenda. What do you think is really driving Johnson's selective outrage? Drop your thoughts in the comments.
The Mystics were moving the two games that were coming to their town with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. They were moving them to Baltimore. All right, now, in case you're wondering, that Mystics home arena that they play on normally and brag about selling it out is only 4,200 fans. I mean, come on. 4,200 fans, right?
Johnson's stance on team over individual lasted exactly as long as it took to count potential ticket sales. Because when it came time to make real business decisions, her actions told a completely different story. The Washington Mystics quietly announced a venue change, but not for all games, only for matchups against the Indiana Fever. Instead of playing in their usual 4,200-seat arena, they're moving those games to a 14,000-seat venue in Baltimore. Why? Because one player, the same one Johnson tried to downplay, is driving demand like never before. The mask of principled leadership slipped, revealing what this was always about: profit.
Caitlin Clark comes to town. They move it to a 14,000-seat arena. I mean, that's nearly nearly 10,000 more fans.
Johnson's latest move spoke louder than any interview. The Mystics didn't relocate all their games to a bigger venue, just the ones featuring the Indiana Fever. This wasn't a general effort to boost attendance. It was a targeted play to capitalize on the Caitlin Clark effect, the very thing Johnson previously dismissed. Tripling arena capacity for one matchup exposes a simple truth. When it comes to business, Johnson knows exactly who's driving demand. So, was her original criticism ever really about fairness? Or was it just a convenient narrative, until the numbers told a different story?
Means the gate prices, all right? The gate prices for the game will actually go up. In other words, just like that preseason game, they has got tickets for $4,500. A run-of-the-mill game like this, we all know Caitlin Clark tickets are expensive.
The financial implications are impossible to ignore. With nearly 10,000 extra seats per game, all likely to sell at premium prices, the revenue potential is staggering. We're talking about millions in additional ticket sales, all thanks to the very player Johnson tried to downplay, and fans saw right through it. Social media erupted with reactions calling out the hypocrisy. One fan bluntly asked, "Wasn't this the same owner who diminished Caitlin Clark's impact? Now she's cashing in on it?" Another put it even more directly. Why just the Fever games? Why not every game? Or are you choking on your words about the face of the league? This wasn't just about a venue change. It was a full-blown contradiction, one Johnson can't explain away.
Raising the amount of money it will cost to get into this game. She may end up lining her own pockets with more money because the gate prices may go way up. And she's going to force Caitlin Clark fans to pay additional money to get into the game by putting in a bigger but not as big venue.
Fans immediately saw through the contradiction. Social media lit up with reactions calling out Johnson's hypocrisy. One fan bluntly asked, "Wasn't this the same owner who downplayed Caitlin Clark's impact? Now she's cashing in on it?" Another put it even more directly. "Why only the Fever games? Why not every game? Or are you choking on your words about the face of the league?" This wasn't just a venue change, it was a blatant contradiction. Johnson dismissed Clark's influence when it suited her narrative. But when it came to filling seats and maximizing profits, her actions told the real story.
And this year, something clicked in the WNBA because of the draft and the players that came in. It's not just Caitlin Clark. Yes, it is. You telling me somebody spending $4,500 for an Angel Reese game? Get the bleep out of here. The mother bleep out of here. It's Angel Reese. She continued. We have so much talent out there that has been unrecognized, and I don't think we can pin it on just one player.
Johnson's actions sent a clear message. When it came to public statements, she downplayed Clark's impact. But when it came to business decisions, she knew exactly who was driving ticket sales. fans weren't buying the double standard. The same owner who argued that no single player should be singled out for recognition was now making a massive financial move that revolved around one player's star power. So, was Johnson's original criticism ever about fairness? Or was it just another example of the league's struggle to embrace its most electrifying new face?